Hello dear visitors, today I want to share with you this little known scene from The Lord of the Rings, Book 1, that involves Merry Brandybuck as its main character, I would say, and there are also Maggot the Farmer in this scene, Frodo, and Sam with Pippin. And by the way, I want to note that Farmer Maggot is actually a very, very interesting character in itself, and maybe I'll do another episode, another video about him personally. But for today, let's just say that in the movies he's not really present. Maybe we can hear his voice when four heroes are running away in some cornfield from somebody. That probably implies that this somebody is Farmer Maggot. I should check this, but still he's not really visible in this scene. And as for today's scene from the book, it's not present in the movies also, not even in the extended version, but in my opinion it has an interesting feel about it, and it shows Tolkien's writing style, Tolkien's atmosphere that is really unique and that we all love so much. So let's read it. It was 5 miles or more from Maggot's Lane to the ferry. The hobbits wrapped themselves up, but their ears were strained for any sound above the creak of the wheels and the slow clop of the pony's hoofs. The wagon seemed slower than a snail to Frodo. Beside him, Pippin was nodding towards sleep, but Sam was staring forwards into the rising fog. They reached the entrance to the ferry lane at last. It was marked by 2 tall white posts that suddenly loomed up on the right. Farmer Maggot drew in his ponies, and the wagon creaked to a halt. They were just beginning to scramble out when suddenly they heard what they had all been dreading: hoofs on the road ahead. The sound was coming towards them. Maggot jumped down and stood holding the ponies' heads and peering forward into the gloom. Clip-clop, clip-clop, came the approaching rider. The fall of the hoofs sounded loud in the still foggy air. "You'd better be hidden, Mr. Frodo," said Sam anxiously. "You get down in the wagon and cover up with blankets, and we'll send this rider to the right abouts." He climbed out and went to the farmer's side. Black riders would have to ride over him to get near the wagon. Clop, 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 clop. The rider was nearly on them. "Hello there," called Farmer Maggot. The advancing hoofs stopped short. They thought they could dimly guess a dark cloaked shape in the mist, a yard or two ahead. "Now then," said the farmer, throwing the reins to Sam and striding forward. "Don't you come a step nearer. What do you want, and where are you going?" "I want Mr. Baggins. Have you seen him?" said a muffled voice, but the voice was the voice of Merry Brandybuck. A dark lantern was uncovered, and its light fell on the astonished face of the farmer. "Mr. Merry!" he cried. "Yes, of course. Who did you think it was?" said Merry, coming forward. As he came out of the mist and their fears subsided, he seemed suddenly to diminish to ordinary hobbit size. He was riding a pony, and a scarf was swathed round his neck and over his chin to keep out the fog. Frodo sprang out of the wagon to greet him. "So there you are at last," said Merry. "I was beginning to wonder if you would turn up at all today, and I was just going back to supper. When it grew foggy, I came across and rode up towards Stock to see if you had fallen in any ditches, but I am blessed if I know which way you have come. Where did you find them, Mr. Maggot? In your duck pond?" Okay, let's finish here. Wow, how I like this scene, really magnificent. It's so small, pure and simple. And well, I understand why this scene is not in the movie, and I do understand the choice of Peter Jackson. It makes perfect sense because it's really hard to show such an interaction in a correct way so we can see this kind of startled reaction of other heroes when they see Mary, and at first they believe that it's not him and it's one of the riders. I think that this scene is one of those scenes that work better when you imagine them, when you write about them. And when you try to show them in the movie, they sometimes work awkwardly or do not work at all. And one more thing that I should note is that when you're trying to translate any book into a movie, when you try to port it somehow, and more than that, your main goal is to keep the feel, the atmosphere, the facts, the logic of the source material, that becomes a deed in itself, a very, very serious deed. And let me tell you that this kind of scene is not the hardest one, actually. There are some scenes that may seem impossible to translate into a movie in their raw format, so to say, without changing them drastically or without using some very, very special techniques. But let's talk about it in some other episodes in detail, when we'll have a scene that will seem really impossible, not just not very convenient like this one, but really impossible, well, at first glance at least.